listeners, welcome to another great podcast. This is Satavisa. For today's podcast, we have with us Mr. Viral Jani, EVP and India Country Head TimesBridge. Based on Mumbai, he overlooks the success of TimesBridge's rising investment portfolio in India through an invitation network of partner companies spread across the country. Hello, Viral. Welcome to Analytics Insight. It's great to have you here.
Hello, Satavisa. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you. Now, can you please give us a brief about the services you provide in TimesBridge?
Sure. So it's been over a few years, almost a decade now. TimesBridge has been in the business of bringing global ideas into India and presenting India's insights to the world. What we do is essentially we invest in global technology and media companies and help them, set together essentially a playbook, which is a playbook to make these companies successful in India. And we have, over a period of time, developed a very interesting culture forward playbook, which essentially has been a proven track record of driving success for all our portfolio companies. So our portfolio now includes more than 15 companies, and we have a very illustrious set of companies that we have been able to work with, and we continue to work with. From very early days, the investments of Uber, Airbnb, Coursera, those were some of the early investments that we made. And over the period of time, we have also expanded our portfolio by including some really interesting companies like Smule, which is world's largest singing karaoke app, Mubi, which is independent cinema platform, streaming platform, Wattpad, which is world's largest storytelling platform, Headspace, which is world's largest meditation and mindfulness platform, Stack Overflow, which is again very interesting company, world's largest tech ecosystem and community of techies who are basically using Stack Overflow as a second screen to code and so on. And we also work with a couple of really interesting nonprofit companies, and one of them being Malaria No More, which has a mission to kind of eradicate malaria over next few years by 2030, and Girl Effect, which is essentially helping young girls to find help them tackle sort of health issues and vocational guidance and so on and so forth. So overall, it is a very, very eclectic mix of global companies that we have been able to work with and are currently working with, and essentially helping these companies grow in India. Of course, India, as you know, is the most exciting country in the world right now. India being the world's largest open internet market, it presents a massive opportunity for global companies that are looking at international expansion. And we have a very, as I said earlier, a very robust playbook that we have developed in a very multi-dimensional manner that we are able to help these companies. So yeah, that's a quick sort of overview of what we do.
That sounds very interesting. Now, I'm a little curious about what is your opinion on how global tech startups are driving innovation in the ecosystem of Indian startups?
Yeah, sure. So I believe that let's take a step back, right, and let's look at what is our why do global companies and why India is a sort of a good market fit for a lot of global companies, right? So India has one of the largest English speaking audiences, right? And as we know that most of the sort of last 2 to 3 decades innovation that has been seen across the world has been sort of centered around North America and some parts of Europe. But increasingly now in Asia is kind of catching up, and India, of course, at the forefront of it. So what is happening is that India, being such a big English speaking market, naturally starts adapting to a lot of global tech platforms specifically, essentially because it's very there is a certain, I would say, 50 to 60 million audience in India, which is essentially constantly looking for global ideas and trying new ideas, right? And so there is a very easy way for Indian audiences and Indian consumers to start sampling global ideas, and that essentially becomes a really good starting point and a foot in the door sort of early traction mechanism for for these companies and platforms to sort of enter into India. And then as they sort of start scaling up and expanding within the country, they sort of start localizing and start working on nuances that would basically start appealing, the products basically start appealing to the sort of next set of audiences that would be interested in buying or sampling these products. So that is a so this is how sort of tech has evolved in the country. And what ends up happening is that these global companies obviously are very very unique, and they have been able to sort of almost category creating in many ways, right? So let's take an example how Uber, for example, has revolutionized mobility business in the world, from days of us struggling to find taxis on the road to now essentially able to find taxis on our fingertips. And of course this kind of expands into many more businesses beyond just like finding cars and taxis. And a lot of businesses have now sort of model themselves upon on this technology and the technology that is used by a company like Uber. And if you look at many startups and within Indian ecosystem, including not just Ola, which is a direct competitor of Uber, but also many other companies that have taken a cue from what Uber does and sort of has led to many innovative ideas that are propped up, right? I'm just This is just one example. Similar to that, there are many of the global companies that have entered into India, created excitement and created marketplaces, and hence that has led to many more Indian companies that have essentially been able to create business models and companies which basically cater to that audience. So I believe that the advent of technology and innovation to a large extent has been inspired in at least the early part of the tech revolution that we've seen over last decades, which is based on how these global companies have been able to sort of spur a wave of innovation which Indian companies obviously have been able to latch on. However, I do want to sort of also say that India is a very different market, and obviously the Indian founder ecosystem has been extremely innovative in their approach, and they have been able to sort of not only get inspired from the global companies but also have been able to come up with original ideas which work in a complicated market like India, which is what has been really interesting. And I think both global ideas and Indian ideas sort of coexist in a very unique manner, in a very interesting manner that we don't see in many more geographies beyond India. So I'm super excited about how global companies are sort of spurring innovation, but at the same time, like Indian ecosystem is also driving self-sufficient sort of innovation.
Thanks, Viral, for explaining it so well. And can you please give me some briefs about how TimesBridge is contributing in policymaking and also investment building in India?
Sure. So basically, a lot of the companies that we work with um, has been very very open to just being participatory in Indian policy making. We believe that Indian sort of government ecosystem is very very open to newer ideas, and we have seen that a proactive sort of approach towards co-creating something which is very relevant for various audiences and various sections of society, is something which goes a long way in creating some interesting ideas. So just to give you an example, for example, Coursera, one of our portfolio partners, they have been extremely, for example, open to partnering with government universities and government funded institutions, right? This is just one example of how a platform like Coursera has been able to create reach and opportunity for not only audiences in India, but also consumers across the world to get access to world class education provided by government funded educational institutions. This is just one example of how a government partnership can be extremely beneficial on both both sides. Similar to that, one of our other partners, Airbnb, for example, has been extremely proactive and has created some really interesting, I would say, partnerships with state governments across the country. From Northeast to Maharashtra to other states. There have been many such state level MOUs that Airbnb has been able to sort of partner with, and they have been essentially been able to spur a wave of localized, I would say, tourism, which is not only beneficial to the overall sort of economy, but at the same time they've also been working with certain inclusive sections of society, like for example, women based homeowners who have started putting their homes on Airbnb under the partnership with the state government. So again, an example of how a very creative yet inclusive and mutually beneficial partnership can be created between a tech company like Airbnb and and different government stakeholders. So I think this is a good example of, and we always encourage our partners to be proactive and always open to ideas and partnering with state governments, because we believe that Indian governments, not only central government but also various state governments, are always open to ideas, and are keen to sort of partner with various tech stakeholders.
Well, it seems you guys are doing a great job. Now, I'm interested to know from you about how global companies can benefit from a strategic partnership while they are entering India.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, one of the things which I believe, India is one of those markets where we believe that there is while there is a huge potential, it also suffers from this unique phenomena that we've observed. And personally, me and some of my colleagues who have worked with many global companies in past, we've observed this unique phenomena called superficial market entry, right? So because as I was saying earlier, in India is such an English forward country, it is very easy to get the early traction, and that can be really deceiving, because essentially what ends up happening is that sitting out of San Francisco or sitting out of London, one could run a Facebook or a Google campaign and very easily sort of tend to get a million early users on a platform which is tech platform, right? So that is generally, and that can be seen as something which is like victory in many cases, and many tech companies actually make that mistake of planting a victory flag based on something like that. And but we believe that's a very superficial way of looking at India. And India, while it presents a 1.4 billion market opportunity, it is complicated, right? And it is not just one country. It is a geographically bound one country, yes, but at the same time there are literally 30 countries rolled into one. Every state has its own different culture. Every state has its own market nuances. And I think there are many important aspects that goes into making a successful market entry in a country like India. And I think that's where we come in, and a strategic partner like us uh, can be a huge game changer for the companies that we would work with. So we've put together a playbook which is essentially helping companies in a very 360-degree sort of multi-dimensional market entry approach. We help our companies right from giving them localized market intelligence to helping them find the right set of people to work with, to helping them build brands, to helping them work with influential folks in their ecosystem, to helping them build bridges with government stakeholders, to helping them build community, India-specific community playbook, something which we are really proud of, to helping them craft interesting partnerships in market, which will essentially help them, co-create and co-market and co-sell with many such partner companies within India. And so all of this put together, it becomes a very comprehensive playbook, which is essentially which is why we believe that a partner like TimesBridge, which is very uniquely positioned within the entire tech ecosystem to help any global company in India. And all of this put together, we also have the mega power of Times Group, a roughly 200 years old institution, which is over the period of time evolved into the largest, I would say, Indian digital platform. We have multiple products within our portfolio from a Times Group perspective, and we actually can plug and play, some really interesting, I would say, innovations and distribution ways in which we can actually create reach for all our global players. So I think this gives us, as TimesBridge, a very unique position to create this, strategic advantage for many global companies that we will work with.
Great. That was quite insightful. Now, can you please tell me, when international businesses are expanding in India, what is the role of cultural understanding?
Right. Understood. So I think I think it's a make or break for in many ways, right? So in a country like India, as I was saying earlier, that it's 30 countries rolled into one, right? I mean, we should look at India as not one country, but as a subcontinent or a continent itself. And I think cultural understanding becomes almost a make or break for any companies that is looking to enter India. And it starts from very basic um, understanding of how language and which languages will work where, and it can actually go into a far more nuanced approach to, let's say, there are various cultural moments that one tends to celebrate in India. So how can you create a plug and play model, for example, with various cultural moments that would one could actually celebrate throughout the year, and also create momentum and traction around putting together a very interesting playbook. So basically, it's a I feel that global companies need to be super empathetic about how they are looking at India, and they need to come in with an open mind, and at the same time willing to sort of adapt to various cultural nuances, which can not only be used in, let's say, marketing activities, but that can also go into other aspects. So just to give you a simple example, we have a product playbook which we kind of work alongside our partners, and we have created a whole host of the simple tweaks that a lot of these product companies can actually adapt. So one simple example I can give you is, let's say most technology companies have created iOS friendly products. But obviously, when they enter India, Android is the biggest player, and so we basically have a playbook of creating product testing across various Android phones. um, a simple thing like, let's say, in a sign up flow, you can make very simple changes like telephone login, mobile number login, for example, or something as simple as OTPs, integration of OTPs in your login flow can actually create a massive bump up in the way how technology products can be sort of adaptation can actually increase. To give you a live example, Uber, for example, Uber went ahead and launched many products in India first. To give you an example, cash, which is Uber started accepting cash for the first time in the world in India. And then they are using those innovations that they have done in many other countries, like the African countries or Southeast Asia and other markets, which are Android heavy. And The interesting part is that many of our companies actually drive and test out new innovation, which are very focused on cultural nuances, and then these ideas are then taken out to different other geographies.
Amazing. Now, I'm curious about what are the lessons that you have learned over the decade-long journey?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, actually. Um, uh, One of the things that we believe at TimesBridge is that culture, I think cultural is something, cultural immersion and being part of the cultural zeitgeist is actually very, very critical, right? So I think I just spent some time on culture, so I'm not going to repeat that part, but basically culture has been is a key driver, and for any global company to sort of create resonance within the consumer base, culture forward approach is something very critical. But beyond that, there is, of course, other interesting aspects which are really working for us. Is, for example, um, in a market like India, one cannot survive on your own, right? So creating collaborative partnerships is something very, very important. And over a period of time, we have been able to create this really interesting playbook that we put together for all our partners. So, for example, in an example, I can give you Headspace, which is world's largest meditation and mindfulness app. So we've partnered with multiple platforms like Cred, like Times Prime, and many other platforms, just to sort of create excitement and sampling opportunities for their customer base, right? So I'm just giving this one example, but similar to that, we work alongside many telcos. Work alongside banks. We work alongside distribution players, and so on and so forth. And these partnerships can actually go a long way, because not only does it expand the user base, but also it leads to there's almost like a flywheel that gets created, right? And flywheel can have a self-sustaining effect, where a lot of consumers can then basically create awareness, and this can lead to creating an awareness and then sampling, and then eventually long-term sort of loyalty with the platform. So that's another, I would say, apart from culture, partnerships is a very, very critical play that we believe is an important one.
That sounds really great. Now, can we talk a little about the non-metro cities? Like, how are they attracting investors from across the globe?
I think I feel like there is a technology trickle down effect that's happened over the last few years, right? So we saw that many technological innovations were adapted. In the beginning at least, was kind of restricted to metros and bigger cities. Uh, but over the period of time, we are seeing that this adaptation is sort of changing, and many more smaller cities and smaller towns are now uh, looking at trying out new technologies. Of course, I believe there were few pivotal moments that have been reasons why this happened. So 2016, when Geo came in the picture, and free data was offered, 4G data was offered for a significant period of time. I think that drove a lot of penetration for 4G, especially in the smaller towns. And then, of course, COVID happened, and that sort of fast tracked a lot of adaptation of technology in smaller cities and smaller towns. So I think increasingly now, products are being made for that category of audiences and consumer bases, and one can see that happening across the board, right? So uh, be it fintech, be it media, be it quick commerce, or even agri-tech or any other category that you pick up, right? Um, Increasingly now, products are being made specifically for tier two town, and that is attracting a whole lot of attention from investors. Of course, the 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 TAM, I would say, is massive over there. Of course, the total market opportunity is massive, given the size and scale and the population that we have in so many smaller towns and rural areas. And we are also seeing internet adaptation sort of growing in these markets. So all said and done, I feel like there is a massive interest that is being seen, um, from the investors side, as well as from founders who are trying to solve for um, the problems of folks living in smaller towns and rural areas.
That sounds very interesting. Now, lastly, I want to ask you about your future plans for the company.
Yeah, sure. So I believe that there is a tremendous room to grow for TimesBridge. We are sitting at a cusp of a very interesting time. So India obviously continues to be one of the fastest growing economy. India also is the largest open internet market, and technology adaptation is happening at a fast pace and all of that. So all indicators, market indicators, look really positive for India. And India is also seen very favorably by many global players, and hence we continue to see more and more more and more international players looking at entering into India, right? And with a lot of interest. So we believe that we are sitting in that sort of intersection of a great market opportunity like India, and a lot of incoming interest. And so I think we want to continue adding more and more global companies to our portfolio. We also are looking at expanding into some categories which we currently do not have on our side, and some of them. So, for example, let's say B2B enterprise, we just have like one particular player on our portfolio, which is Stack Overflow, which is we are helping them sell the B2B enterprise product in India. So we want to expand more on the B2B enterprise side. There is opportunity on the gaming side. There's opportunity on D2C brands that are looking into entering India. There is edtech companies are still sort of very excited about the opportunity in India, and many such product categories. And we are actually very agnostic to all product categories. So uh, basically we want to continue bringing more and more companies into India. At the same time, we believe that this playbook actually has a lot of merit, and of course there is a potential opportunity, if there are Indian companies that are open to working with us, we'll be very happy to sort of also you know start working with Indian companies. We believe that we have learned a lot over a decade, working with some of the best names in the world, and there is lots we can actually work. We can do alongside Indian companies as well. So there is a lot of opportunity outside of India and within the India. And at some point in time, we will also be very interested in taking global companies, Indian companies outside of India. So that's another opportunity. I think there's lots of permutations, combinations possible in this whole ecosystem.
Well, that sounds amazing. I'm sure this is definitely going to help all of our listeners too. And thank you, Viral, for joining us today. It was great talking to you. And I'm looking forward to many more innovative solutions coming from your end.
Thank you so much, Satavisa. Really nice talking to you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you.